The time has finally come. Our team reveals are here for the 2024 Round 1 NRL season. What you'll see here on the screen, or if you're listening on the pod, is that the team is not completely filled in. And the reason being is that I'm just going to show you my thoughts for this weekend, the way I'm going to be playing it. And then from there, I will be announcing the rest of the squad back end of next week when we've got a little bit more of a general idea, but obviously a lot of this information. I have filled out this squad, but I won't be showing it today. And the guys in the private group will have a further idea on that. You've still got a couple of hours left, guys, to jump into the private group. It's selling out fast. Only a couple of spots to go now, which is amazing. Big thank you to all of you guys in there and who are interested in jumping in. As I said, you've got a couple of hours by the time this video comes out. Friday evening, it's all closed by the end of Friday. So, round 1. What you do have to do, guys, is you see here, to make it really, really simple, your team is currently invalid and will not score for the next round. Please ensure you complete your team and select your captain and vice captain before lockout. So before the first game, 1:30 p.m. on Sunday, right? So when the Manly game starts against the Bunnies, 1:30, that's when your vice captain is locked in, your captain is locked in, and whoever is playing in this first game is locked in. Once 3:30 comes around, anyone in those two in those two teams is locked out, and they cannot change any position. They cannot be moved from interchange to emergencies, whatever that is. They are locked in. The other thing to lock in, guys, is putting whoever is playing in these two games that you want to have in your scoring 17, must put them in your starting side. It does allow for a lot more flexibility come when the team lists arise next week, in that you can move, obviously, and have anyone from any position in your interchange and emergencies. And if you've got guys that I've got in my starting team here in the interchange bench here, it's very, very hard to sort things out because you would need to have and move players. If you don't like someone in your mids, you're going to have to bring in a mid. Whereas if you don't like someone on the interchange next week, you can change them for anyone in any position. So that's what you need to be looking at with your side. So today I'll be releasing the players I'm looking to pick, and again, subject to change given this is Friday and we do get the final team list and everything. So as I said, the private group team gets to know all of that information if I do make any changes from here on, and we'll do this on a weekly basis. But for my team here, NRL Fantasy Analysis, and then for my head-to-head squad as well. So this year, as a few of you may be aware, I'm going to be doing a head-to-head video each and every week for Fantasy and also Supercoach. We get the Supercoach reveals tomorrow or Sunday, which will be cool. But so I'll be doing head-to-head content as well, guys, for all you budding head-to-head legends that come up against your mates and are obviously, in cash leagues and whatever else. I think it's really, really important to cover that base this year, and I'm going to be doing that with the head-to-head squad, and I'm going to win all my head-to-heads. Let's just say that. All right. My players that I'm selecting. And what we're going for, guys, here is obviously Cam Murray. So he's our vice captain given he plays in that first game, which is helpful. Obviously, knocks that out of the way. You don't have to worry about your vice captain from there on in. I went for him over Haas just to spread a little bit more cash around my team. And I know with Murray last year, his demerits were very, very poor. And I think he can bounce back just on that alone, play pretty similar minutes. And I think if he bounces back on those demerits and keeps everything else the same, then he's a 60 to 61, 62 type of player. And that's a few points of value and gets him into the 800s. Last year, I started with him and he was over 900k, and he did a good job for the first portion of the season. So at 787, I think it would be silly to not grab him this year. So that's my thoughts. I think Payne Haas is an incredible pick as well. You'll see here that he is in my head-to-head squad. So Payne Haas, Murray, whichever one you want to go for, that is awesome. Obviously, there's other guys that can be named in the next team list, like the McInneses, and you can go for Hopgood and these types of guys. But again, I'm locking in these guys for now. It's obviously fairly mid and edge heavy in here. And the next ones on my list, guys, are Satili, Tupanua, and then Siwa Wong. So both those guys there are not exactly locked in, but this is my plan currently. And my theory here, guys, is that 421k, the dual position for Satili, is really, really important. We've seen him up in the 600k range before. And if he, one of these guys is going to play some good minutes, the other one might be down a little bit. So I think with these guys being priced at 30 and a half, 30.6, I think, 31, and 32 for Wong, Wong's reserve grade stats, thanks to whoever popped that up in on a Facebook group, but reserve grade stats are 57 average, and we've seen last year he's able to score really well and outdo he's currently what he's priced at, even in some games over 70 minutes, some games in the 50-minute range. He was able to outscore that by 11 points. So even if that was to be the case, some games he plays bigger minutes, some games is less. He is a younger player that has a tremendous amount of upside. And I know with him, if it doesn't work out in the first week or two, I can move on, right? If Nat Butcher comes back in and starts or something like that, we can move on from Wong or Tupanua at that price, given there'll likely be a decent cash cow that pops up or another guy in that middle and the edge situation there. But the good thing with these guys, as I said, is that they're priced fairly low. And if they were to play 50 minutes, you'd imagine they hit their break even. If they were to score a try in 50 minutes, they would beat that break even by 10 or so. And if they were to play bigger minutes, they should get into the 40s fairly comfortably. So I'm happy to take that risk on both of them and then make a decision to change from there if need be. So that's where I'm at with Satili. Wong's obviously a little bit more of a risk just because he hasn't been there for very long. Satili's done it for a long time and had, coming off an ACL injury a couple of years ago, year and a half now, to then have some neck problems last year. That's kind of my worry with Satili. If he was like 470 or 480, I would not go for him, but 420 and a 31 or 30 and a half average is low enough to take a risk on him, given he has 46 as his average in 71 or 73 or something minutes at edge. And even last year, you'd have games where he'd play like 40 minutes and get 40 points in sort of the middle or a little bit on the edge and middle, and then he'd have higher minutes where he'd have some lower games. So he's a bit all over the shop with that, but I think that he should be able to get over 31. That's for sure. Now, Piakura, guys, I think, as I said, he's the must-have from this list. Cleary's obviously pretty close up there. Piakura is the one. All the other guys, you can make a decision on yourself, but Piakura at $3.99, it's just way too cheap to leave out. He's got the attacking upside, and hopefully there's a good defensive output in, especially these first bunch of games. If he's not able to score a try or two across these first 4 tough games for him, that he can get some defensive output. But his tackle breaks and offload should be there at a minimum in his base, and then tries to come from that point onwards. As I said, guys, probably the other thing to think, I should say, when you're setting up here is where do you overload? Where do you put the money? Do you leave a good amount of cash in the bank? Obviously sitting there with 6.699 million in my bank for the second lot of team lists. And I'm looking for a fair bit of flexibility, and that's what having these guys in the starting team, not having too many players, but I think with Wong and Tupanua, they're cheap enough that it gives you a fair bit of cash to play with across the rest of the team. And they both have 40s upside, which is 10 plus points of value. And if you have that on offer and, chances for like a Wong to average 50, I think Tupanua is like a 43 or something like that if things go fairly well, where Wong can go up to 50 if he plays good minutes. And that's close to 20 points of value, which is massive. So I think, cheap enough that I can do that. I'm locking in one gun middle, and we know that the middles are very, very important for the beginning of the season. So Murray's that guy for me. And then Cleary, obviously, as my captain, is the next big one. But we're very confident that he has a really nice floor. He has the most upside of anyone in the game, and I'm really happy to lock him in as my captain there each and every week until something happens to him, or we've got Murray to cover him as captain. We may be able to get Hines or something from that point. Would be the play. And then the final one on this list, guys, is Ben Trbojevic. So I am putting him in the 5 jersey. I am likely to have one looper, whether it's someone down here in that center position, not naming any names, or it's like a Tigers player. That's kind of my thinking at the moment with Trbojevic. And because I've spent a little bit less up top here for now, I have the ability to chop and change a couple of like good centers, value and sort of more expensive than that in the centers if that doesn't work out with Ben. If he scores well, I can just pop in a looper either here in interchange 4 or someone who's not playing in the center position, which is cool. Seb Chris's, these types of guys, or Tigers player that's not playing is going to work out. All right, so obviously I haven't selected any wing fullbacks at the moment. We know probably 1 or 2 of them. Centers, all up in the air for me at the moment. Like obviously if Ethan Strange get the center jersey, then he could come into that spot or into the emergencies. He would get half dual, obviously. And then we've got the wing fullbacks with Weeks, like what happens with him if it's Weeks or Strange. They're the type of things we need to think about when you're setting up your sides. But that is my original team reveal I hope that was helpful for you guys. And 6 players are going to be playing. Make sure you do fill out your entire side, guys, at a minimum. Vice captain, captain, fill out the entirety of the side, which I will after this video, just to make sure that it is valid and will score for round 1. Otherwise, if you leave it like this, you won't get any of your scores and you'll be on 0, unfortunately. So make sure that you set that up completely and go from there. Alrighty, let's X out of that one. And we have our head-to-head team. So we're actually running at the moment with 7 players, and that leaves us 5.857 mil in the bank. So I'm leaving myself more flexibility in my overall side and leaving myself with less flexibility here for my head-to-head side, just with the amount of cash that I am spending in this situation here heading into round 1 in Vegas. So you see here up top, things are a little bit different, and these are all guys that, again, you've got that sort of grouping of about 40 players that you can select from, and you can cycle through a few different things. So I'm spending a little bit less at my hooking main position with Brandon Smith here. The reason being, I just think there's potentially some room for value, and in my head-to-head squad, I want to look for a bit more value in some positions, and then look to lock in points in others. So you look at Payne Haas being in that side, we're locking in his points all the way to Origin, and we can make that decision from there if we want to keep him in our head-to-head side, or we can move him on. So that's a position that we won't have to touch for 12 rounds, which is cool. Brandon Smith, we're taking a little bit more of a punt on, as he can potentially sort of make 100k or something like that, and has the mid duel as well. So we'll slot him in our hooking position. Potential for upside. At worst, I think he's going to stay at the same price. He's 35k cheaper than last year, but does look better, but doesn't have the current injury, which is massive. Haas, as I said, we're locking in points with him. Super excited to have him as our vice. We're still going to lock in Cleary as our captain. Happy with that. Tupanua, I've just got him ahead of Wong in this team, and I'm going to just go with the one rather than go for both, just because I think that I'll have to do a few different things. Obviously, spending a little bit more money down below. I've had to change things around a little bit. I couldn't fit a heap of the value guys in. So Tupanua is the one guy I'm going to slot in. He can slot in the mid there. He has the duel. He's a little bit cheaper. So that's where I'm going with him. Fairly safe, I think, in his role. Now that he's fit and firing, he looked good in the trials. And Wong, there's a few question marks. He didn't really trial too much. He has the more boom upside, but he has some downside as well. So that's where I'm locking in with those, top 3. Piakura, the must-have. Ben Trbojevic, I'm just going to start in the head-to-head squad, considering I'm spending a bit up in wing fullback. A little less flexibility is needed in this side, and if Strange works out well, he can be at the starter with him, or he can just be my cover on the bench. And wing fullbacks will work out when it comes to that. But I do want to finish this team off. I am getting a little higher on Trbojevic, just because we've heard how fit and strong and fast that he has become over this off-season. Obviously, having the pec injury last year, he hasn't had any problems with his hamstrings for a little while now, and he has the boom upside potential. So if that comes out and it works really well, then happy days. I do great, and he scores well in the 50s or whatever he is. I think he has 60 upside, and as I said, somewhere around the 45 midpoint, which he's priced just above that, and then has the downside of the injuries. But I'm happy to lock him in from round 1. We'll see how it goes, and then from that point, we can actually make the rest of our team after he plays, which is pretty cool. Obviously, in that first game, we'll find out very quickly if I'm in a bit of strife after the first game with not having Murray, obviously. So we'll see how Murray goes, but having Tommy Trbojevic and Ben in that first game. And then we'll have the other options, the Roosters guys and the Broncos. So plenty happening in Vegas for me across my two sides there. Let me know what you're thinking of going with in the comments, guys, or in Discord or something like that. Go get in there and talk with the mates. All that's down there in the description, along with the private group details if you're interested in that. But again, this team could, and the guys I'm picking for the Vegas games, could definitely change before Sunday, and especially when the hour before team lists come out. Like if something with Tupanua and Wong changes, then I'm going to be changing my side, and the private group guys will find out about that. Again, I'll shut up about the private group once it's locked in as of tonight. So this will be the last video speaking about it. So a big thank you for all that have joined that, and a big thank you to all of you guys that have watched this preseason. I'm fairly confident with the guys that I've slotted in across the two sides in this first section, and then the team list will come out next week, and we'll round out our sides, which is going to be very, very exciting. Thanks for being here, guys, and enjoy your weekend.